Robert Sapolsky is guilty of promoting a harmful myth about the brain. He should know better than this. Should know better than repeating this claim, which is used to justify all kinds of oppression, or actually specifically one kind of oppression. The one where you put people in prison for victimless sex, right? Okay. The claim is that young people, even though their brains are otherwise fully developed from early puberty, they have a certain limitation located in the frontal cortex, which makes them limited in how they make decisions, like they're not fully in control. And this part isn't fully developed until 25. And that is supposedly a big deal. It's really silly. I mean, you can debunk this on pure philosophical grounds, like I'm going to do now. You don't have to be a neuroscientist or anything. I mean, he's taken that to an extreme where, well, for one thing, he denies free will. But if you deny free will, then you don't have any development into a human at any point. You're never a person. You're just the deterministic results of processes in your brain, right? That's nonsense in itself. But even if you believe that, it would still be nonsense to claim that you spent over 10 years as an adult without being an adult and your decisions aren't really real, like you know what you're doing. No, that's not how it works. To the extent that people can know what they're doing, ever. Teenagers are just as good at it as adults. They're just in a different stage of life where different decisions are appropriate. I mean, how are you going to get established in life without some amount of risk taking, sensation seeking, and so on? Plus, they don't have problems being responsible. When they get responsibility, they demonstrably can handle that. And also, yes, young men are most criminal, but when you correct for that, for the social influence on that, and you have the most ordered society, places like Norway and Japan or something, where there is least crime. For example, in Norway we only have something like 50 murders per year, maybe as low as 30 sometimes. That includes all young men as well. So clearly it's wrong that these young men are just completely out of control and unable to handle themselves because of some bullshit about the frontal cortex. And likewise, traffic accidents, yes, the young men are overrepresented. But when you look closer, it's not because they're incompetent. There was a study showing that the most developed men take the most risk. The most skilled drivers are the ones who take risks because they need to go beyond what everybody else is doing if they're going to keep improving. And when you're young, you might want to test limits like that. It's not because your frontal cortex is undeveloped. In this case, it's because you are among the best. Like a Formula One driver is at higher risk of crashing than a 30-year-old lady who drives very carefully, right? That doesn't mean he's a worse driver. He's actually incredible. He's just taking risks because He likes the challenge of it, the competition and so on. And that is the explanation for why young men have more accidents. They take more risks for good reason, not because their frontal cortex is undeveloped, so they don't know what they're doing. No, I think it's better to say that whatever happens in your brain after the age of 13 or so is best classified as aging, regardless of how it looks to a neuroscientist. It doesn't matter how it looks. You can observe that any way you want in your irrelevant profession to this point. It is aging rather than development. And also, even if you consider young men more criminal before they're supposedly fully developed at 25, this is also from the perspective of the elders who make the laws and decide what's criminal, right? Like somebody like Joe Biden can start a war at 80 and kill hundreds of thousands, and it's not even a crime. Whereas a 16-year-old would be a criminal just for shoplifting or tagging down a bus shed or something. Because who has power? The elders have the power to define what is supposed to be criminal. It's not an objective truth that they are necessarily so much less criminal. They just have the power to define it. Also, it is weird that this should only affect man. This irresponsibility and risk-taking, criminality. If it is supposedly due to a deficient brain, why wouldn't young women be affected as well? Now, of course, this political correctness of our times, it has an answer to that. It says that girls can't handle sexuality, right? They don't make the right decisions because their brain is retarded, and so we need to punish their partners because we have absorbed this myth. This is the justification for it. It's not how it came about. That was feminism. But this is the post hoc rationalization for age of consent. It's not how it got started, but it's how it gets perpetuated right now. And I am disappointed in Robert Sapolsky for pushing this idea. He should know better. He is wrong. And I, for one, do not participate in this nonsense.